Hey, what's up? The Cabinet Vision guy here with a new, really instructive, fun video. So I've got a a wall cabinet here, and it doesn't look very different until we look here in the section view. You can see I've got a couple of parts here. If I open up my doors, and then we go back to the 3D view, you can see I've got these two black spots here. If I zoom in a little bit closer, you can see they're kind of like badly drawn puck lights. And that's pretty much what they are. These are supposed to represent puck lights. And let's go back to the wireframe mode. And if I explode this out a little bit, you'll see that in the spot where the puck lights are, there's also hole operations. If I now go to my S2M center and optimize this job, you can see that I have holes in the top set for CNC. So if I go back to my plan view and I go to my reports, let's go to the reports center. We will set up our reports and we'll go to the material summary. Right here. If I go ahead and view that, you can see I've got puck lights here. So not only do I get my operations, I get my renderings, I'll also get my reports for this. So let's go ahead and see what I did to make this. Alright, so we're going to close this job. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our part catalog. Now, most of the time you see puck lights, you see it in the closets industry, but you can really put it anywhere you want here. I put it in the closet section, and you can see I just created a new part. Just click new, you type the name, which would be what you want here. So in this I used puck, and we'll do puck 1, and call this a puck light. Alright, I'll hit OK. And now, what we've done is we've given it a part so that we know in our reports or in our well, everywhere, some material schedules and everything, that we need some kind of puck light assigned to this, some kind of material. So that's going to be where we start, is right here in the part manager. Let me go ahead and delete the one that I just created because we don't really need that. You can also make sure that the CNC is set to blank so that it doesn't actually try to machine any of the puck lights. We can set up finishes and textures as well, but I figure we just leave that alone for right now. And the next step is to go to our material. I put it in a miscellaneous group. We can actually go ahead and we could create a new group. We'll call it puck lights. Let's give it its own section. All right, and what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new material. So the type we need a type that will accept a 3D model and allow us to apply operations to it. So I just used the hinge plate. We can use anything we want that'll do it: hinge plate, connector, pull, anything like that. But not everything allows us to set up a model. So hinge plate it was for me. We'll call this my puck light so that it doesn't have any conflict with the one that's already there. And this is a sample puck light. And we're going to hit next. And none of this matters. Well, the unit of issue does. We want to order by each, so we want to know how many puck lights we want in total. So we'll want that to stay at each. But we can just zip through here, make sure we're using proper values. I wanted it to be black as a finish. You can set it to whatever you want. And we'll just hit finish. All right. Now I can right click and go to properties and then click advanced and go to the model. Now you can see it's got the default hinge model here. We'll go ahead and delete all of that. So we'll click on everything that's here and we will remove that stuff. And there we go. Let me put it into wireframe. Now all we have is that main work plane. So what we have to do now is we have to import a 3D model that will represent our puck light. So I brought it to the front view so I can see the front of my work plane. And I'm going to add a 3D hardware, and I created one in SketchUp. Just a simple one. It's not really super accurate or mimics anything specific, but just something that I thought it should be. Now we want this puck light to face us, and right now it's facing down. So we should be able to click flip X a couple of times until we get it facing us. And that's kind of what we want right there from this model, where that outer lip is on the front of the model here. We could, do single-sided faces, smooth surface, whatever we want to make it a little bit nicer. For speed purposes, I'm just going to leave it all unchecked and just click OK. And now it's put that there, and if we look at it in 3D mode, we can see that it is sitting on top of this work plane. Well, we obviously want this to, we obviously want this to sink inside the panel a little bit. So we're going to click this, and we're going to give it something of a better name instead of layer 0. Let's call it light. The name is Chrome. We'll call it puck. And that'll be for when we reference it in the equations that we're going to be doing in a moment. So let's kind of position this now. We know we want this to sink in, so let's go here to the Z position and give it an equation of negative dz. We test that. It'll bring it negative 7/8, which is the overall depth or height of the puck light, and hit OK. Now we can see that it's kind of sunk in too far. So let's alter that equation a bit. Let's add 0.0625, and when we test that, oh, I put in the wrong number, didn't I? 0.625. Let's 0.0625 and test that now. That's a better number. So now it actually kind of sits on the, or into the work plane. And if I render that, we can see that a little bit better. Perfect. So let's go back to the front view now, and let's put it back in wireframe. And we want this center of this to be dead center of the work plane. That'll be easier for us to use this material later on inside of a job. So what we have to do is we have to go to the X and Y parameters and then make it move to the left, basically half the width of the part. So we will go negative dx divided by 2. What I've told it is now I want to use the width, but the negative value, and then divide that by 2, so it will literally move it to the left. If it was a positive value, it would move it over further to the right. When I hit test, I get negative 1 1/4. I look over here on my sidebar, I can see my dx is 2.5, so that's perfect. We'll hit OK, and now this material is literally halfway between the left and right of this work plane. So let's do pretty much the same thing for the Y position. We'll go negative dy divided by 2. And we test, we get the same result, and the dy is 2.5, so that's perfect. And we'll hit OK. And now we're pretty much centered in this work plane. And that's exactly where we want it to go. We have it so that it is sunk in, and that's that. But what it's missing now is actually a hole. So let's go ahead and fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on our primary work plane and select edit. And this brings us to our cam editor. And we're going to grab a hole operation. We're just going to drop it right there on the center of it. Pick the select tool and select that hole. And now we're also going to make sure that everything is correct. Let's go to the equation, and let's say we want this puck light to be the parent, which is work planes dot puck dot dx. That should be correct. And yep, you can see it brought us up 2.5 inches, which is correct. And we'll hit OK. You can see it might be hard to see, but that red outline has gone around our part. Let me see if I can go to my layers and change that. Doesn't really look like it. Makes it a little bit easier if I put the background to black. All right, so let's make sure that's selected again. And let's do the same thing. We'll make sure that this is dead center in the middle of the work plane as well, just to be safe. So we'll go dx divided by 2. Well, you know what? It's set at 0, so let's leave it right there because that's the 0 point. So that's actually kind of perfect. The depth is 3/4 of an inch. So what we'll do is we will select this and go master yes. And then when we get done with this, if we look at the 3D view, now I should have a hole all the way through my part. And that's what setting master to yes was. We wanted the part to take from the work plane, which is basically its own part, and create a master operation that cuts in this side panel. So that looks pretty good. And yeah, if we go to the right view, everything kind of lines up well. I like that. I'm happy with that. We could go in and change a few things, maybe give it a better description for the work plane, change up some names, whatever. But for the most part, this is pretty much done. You know what? I'll actually change the finish. I'll change it to black, and the finish type to a laminate matte to give it kind of a plasticky look. So there we go. That's a little bit better. I like that. All right, and that works out perfect. We're basically done with this material. We could add more operations if we wanted to add a channel, for instance, for the wiring. We could create that as a master operation as well. We could right-click on our primary work plane and select Edit, and then go ahead and make a let's change this back to white. Add a dado operation here that we'd want to go through the work plane, and we'd have to add more logic to make sure it goes all the way to the back of the part, but it's something that we could get done. So whatever you really need, so for every puck light that you add into your assembly. But for right now, as I said, we're basically done. We're going to save our changes, and we would set up any kind of pricing information we want here, where we get it from, change our name, whatever else. The hinge plate can be totally left alone. That does not matter basically at all. So we're going to return out of here, and we're going to close this, and now we're going to go ahead and go to our material schedules. And we're going to find, I've got my alder material here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to the closet section. We're going to find that puck light. And you can see it's set to puck light, my old material that I had. But we're going to go to our puck lights, and we're going to drop my puck light on there. From here, we can just close this, and we can assign that in multiple materials. In fact, if we had a bunch of puck lights that we wanted to do, we could change material in multiple schedules, and we could set the material there and hit apply. And that'll just make sure that every single one of our puck lights in all the material schedules are actually set, so that I don't run into an issue where I have a material not assigned showing like this left bracket cover and all these connectors and such. So now we can close out a material schedule because we're done there, and we can actually start a job. And I'm going to make sure my cabinet materials is set to the alder material schedule. I can also try that on my closets. Now we added it in the closet section of the assembly class in the part manager, if you remember. We'll go back and look at that. that doesn't mean that it's only 4 closets. That just means that's where it's going to show up in my material schedule. So anytime I use it, use that material schedule, if I create a puck-light material or puck-light part, it's going to look to the the closet puck-light material. So let's close that, and we'll just hit OK. And we'll draw a simple wall, and we will drag and drop a upper cabinet on the wall, and we're going to go into the section editor. Looks like I don't have a full top on there. Let me just fix that real quick. All right, so we can see that I have a top, I have some shelves, I have a bottom, standard upper cabinet, nothing spectacular about it. So let's go to our face orthographic and let's click New Part. And now here we can just type in puck light. We'll hit Next, Next. We'll associate it with the top so it's in a certain direction and hit Finish. Now if we zoom in, you can see that it's upside down. So the first thing we need to do is rotate it by 180 degrees. That just has to do with how the top part is, not the top that's created for the cabinet, but the top orientation is. Also, if we take a look at this reference point, you can see that's the reference point of that work plane that we had, and it's actually sunk back a little bit from the front of this puck light, exactly what I want. The reason being is I can now just easily resize or relocate this. We're going to change it from -15 to an equation and make it dx cab.dx divided by 2. So it's going to take this center point and put it in the middle of the cabinet. And we're going to say OK. If we look at it right now, it's right there, dead center. And we're going to go to our up-down, and we're going to do something similar, but instead of putting it in the middle of the cabinet, we're going to put it right at the bottom of the top. So if I actually scroll back out and go down here and I click on my top, you can see that the reference point of this is here at the bottom. So all I have to do is find out where that top is in relation to the rest of my cabinet. So let's click on our puck light again. And you see, because it's a part, I can easily create it and move it and click on it. And we're going to use a special equation. We're going to go cab.case.to.pabsy. Now, what did I do here? What I did is I told it to look at the cabinet, then go down one level in the object tree to find the case section. Then I told it to go down another level and find the TO part, or the top part. That's why we had to make it a full top. And now I used PABSY. What is that? That's basically a parameter that's telling the part to look at the part's absolute Y value. Every part and every object inside of a cabinet is located and sized relative to its parent object. Well, if I'm not inside of its parent object, I can get really weird location parameters. So if I need to associate to a single part, like a top, where for a part that I have created, like this puck light, I want to use the absolute Y, because the puck light is going to be part of the global cabinet and not inside the case. So that's why we did this. And when I hit test, you'll see that it brought back 41 3/16. And all I have to do is hit OK, and my puck light disappeared. That's because now it is right here at the bottom, or that reference point is actually at the bottom of my top. So we can see the outline for the part. If I now click on my top, you can see here's the outline for the top. And there we go. Now, the final thing we have to do is kind of locate this puck light in the center of the top. And I'm just going to go to my in-out value, or my Z value, and give an equation of cab.dz divided by 2. And I'm going to hit OK. And now, when I look in the 3D view, I clicked on the wrong thing. So let's go ahead and see what happens, or how to fix that. I'm going to go to my object tree, which actually pulled up on my other monitor. Let me bring this up here. And I'm going to go down to my case, find my top, I'm going to just delete this Z parameter. Hit yes, hit OK. Now if I go back to 3D, there we go. Now it's fixed. So yeah, just I guess that was a great example of what happens when you're clicked on the wrong part and need to fix something you made. So let's go ahead and click my puck light this time. And now let's do that again. Let's go equation cab.dz divided by 2. We'll hit test, hit OK. And now, I don't know if you noticed it, but there was some extra lines added here. And that's because our operation is now put right where it needs to be. So if I explode this out like I did before, my other cabinet, you can see that I have the operation. Let's go ahead and fill that to make it a little more obvious. But there's my operational hold that will come out on my CNC. We'll close this back up. Go back to, let's go back to wireframe, make it a little bit faster. There we go. So now not only did I get my operation, I got my part. If I go to my reports tab, you can see that I have my puck light part and I have the part assigned to it. So the wonderful thing is that I could have it so that my puck light actually gives the part number of the puck that I need, instead of just my puck light. So if I had several different pucks that I could order from, like a white one, a black one, a chrome one, brushed nickel, the rotating ones, the ones that are actually can be pushed to turn on, stuff like that, I can create a material for each one of those. And the best part is I don't have to actually create a new material each time. I can copy the one we've already done and make adjustments. And there you go. That's all we have to do. If I go to my report center, set up reports, go to material summary, and view it, you can see under puck lights, because now it has its own group in the material schedule, in the material manager, there is my puck light, and I need one. And every time I add one, it's going to be put right where it needs to be. So there you go. I thought this was a cool little thing that we would be able to go over. If you have any questions, feel free to post them on eSupport, and we'll do our best to help you with it.